principles for leadership for learning, we came up with 5 principles, but they didn't just happen immediately. It was over a long period of time in a number of countries working together to try and understand those quite contested concepts. What does leadership mean in different countries, and how does it translate? So in our Austrian colleagues, the word der Führer wasn't the word that was going to be used, or Führung, a word for leadership. And words for learning, you know, you'd think that was quite simple, but there are different kind of conceptions around the whole nature of learning. And then the connection for leadership for learning. What does that mean in a practical context of a school? How do you create a learning environment and a leadership environment? So the principles we came up with 5, first of all, a focus on learning, that there has to be throughout the whole school and beyond the school into the parent and local community, that we constantly talk about learning. That is our focus, that's what we do. And secondly, the second condition, conditions for learning, was the second principle, that you have to create conditions in which people are able to talk about the nature of learning, the process of learning, how learning travels or sometimes fails to travel between one classroom and another. The third principle was dialogue, and our Greek colleagues talked about dialogos, meaning flowing through it, and opposed, for example, to the Latin concept of discutere, which means to tear to pieces. So dialogos is how do we connect with, listen to different understandings of people, how they come to the whole notion of learning and the notion of leadership. And the fourth principle then, shared leadership, that leadership just isn't exercised at the apex of the organizational pyramid by the big heroic leader, but we all have a leadership potential and a leadership capacity. Even the 4 or 5-year-old, like my own granddaughter, who can tell me, "Grandpa, I'll tell you what to do here," or she'll take my hand and show me things. She has a strong leadership capacity. So how do we continue and build on that? And the 5th principle is shared accountability, not just accountability up the hierarchy, but an accountability that we owe to one another collegially, and that I owe to young people, and that young people owe to one another. And I think those 5 principles have traveled internationally. Now in Ghana, they've been adopted by the ministry in Ghana, in Africa, because they have been translated into that own context, that particular culture, and they make sense and they resonate. So these are pretty robust and enduring principles.